I'll declare the Ordinary Council meeting for the 22nd of April 2025 open and ask you to stand for the prayer and the acknowledgement of traditional owners. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the peace and beauty of this area. Direct and prosper the deliberations of this council for the advancement of the city and the welfare of its people. Amen. We'd also like to acknowledge the Noongar people who are the traditional custodians of the land. We'd also like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Record of apologies and leave of absence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We do have a number of apologies for this evening's meeting. As you're aware, we have leave of absence recorded for Councillor Amanda Cruz. Councillor Thomas Bruff is also an apology this evening, and I understand that Councillor Mario Leonetti is only a few minutes away. So at the moment, Mr Mayor, we have 8 elected members in attendance.
Thank you. Disclosures of interest.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There is one impartiality interest that has been declared through for tonight's meeting through Councillor McKinlay. You can see that interest displayed on the screen this evening. It's in relation to report number CCS 709. Councillor McKinlay will remain in the chamber and vote on the item. Thank you. I'll just put it to you, Mr Mayor, councillors, staff. Is there any further disclosures for this evening's meeting? No further disclosures. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Reports of members. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make some brief remarks on the weeks that have passed since our last meeting. It's been very busy. As you know, we went up to Kojonup for the Walga Great Southern Zone meeting, and at that meeting passed a few important motions, and one of them was to articulate the 3 main issues for our combined councils in this region, largely for lobbying during the federal election. And some of them, well, they included housing, because we still are in a housing crisis, housing affordability crisis, and housing supply affects our cousins in the regions as much as it does us. The other 2 issues that we identified were renewable energy land use policy, which Albany is working on, and also health and the provision of health services. So I thought it was important to mention at this meeting that those were flagged by us and our neighbors as critical issues in the upcoming election. One of the councillors from Denmark mentioned waste. Waste is still an important issue, but we had to choose top 3, and those were our top 3. I meant to bring my Woolen Mills blanket, thanks to Councillor Trail and some of the creative people in Albany. They had a great exhibition called Celebrating Albany Woolen Mills in the town hall, and I hope everybody got to it. And I managed to buy another blanket because I think in one of my downsizing efforts I got rid of my Albany Woolen Mills blanket, but now I have another one and I feel better about it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of those exhibitions in the time to come. Hopefully Councillor Trail will give us some more information about that. I had a nice visit to Rose Gardens following our last meeting. One of the residents invited me to come and have a look at the Rose Gardens Caravan Park, so I much appreciated David Bullard giving me a look around and introducing me to some of the residents and getting a closer look at what we're about to discuss tonight. Oh, look, you know, we had the public meeting for the noise management plan for the motorsport parks. I'm sure other councils will mention that. I attended the wildlife-friendly gardening workshop at the Retrovision Stadium with Bronte Van Helden and Emma Somerville from South Coast NRM, and learned a lot of little things you can do in your garden to make it a bit more wildlife-friendly. A highlight was the Sports Person of the Year Awards, which the Deputy Mayor and I attended, and hopefully the Deputy Mayor will spend some time in his remarks to congratulate the many people that were honored that night. I was surprised at the diversity of sports that were honored. Volleyball, basketball, hockey, athletics, you know, it's a long list of sports, in addition to what you would expect as the footy. So there was quite a lot of sports people that came up, and I was really chuffed to meet Ellie Cole, who is the Australian female Paralympian who is most decorated. She was delightful, gave the keynote speech, and really inspired us all to achieve the best we can. She started at a very young age and only retired a couple of years ago as an athlete, and now works in inclusivity and accessibility advising. I also met, who you might even know, Greg Heyer from the Wildcats, who is a 4-time NBA championship player. And he, too, was inspiring in the way that he manages the ups and downs of the mental challenges of being a champion. Albany Roller Derby was also recognized this month. The league received the WA Club of the Year for the Good Sports competition. And I know if you're aware of Good Sports, they work in mental health and drug and alcohol harm minimization. So it was delightful to see that they were recognized for the good work they're doing.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Haven't got a lot to report this month because I've been a bit busy doing something else, which meant getting married. But whilst I wasn't doing stuff with my new wife and our lovely daughter, I had the pleasure to meet Minister Stephen Dawson, who's the Minister for Regional Development, to discuss his new portfolio and all the issues around Albany and those that were specifically promised during the election campaign, and putting him on notice that we will most definitely follow up and make sure that those election commitments are delivered, especially the hospital, amongst many others. So it was a really fruitful conversation, and also talked about how the new regional ministers, so Reece Whitby is the Minister for the Great Southern, and how that's going to work, and how we will progress working with the government for the next 4 years. One event that I did get to, as Councillor McLaren talked about, was the Wellington and Reeves Albany Sportsperson of the Year Awards, and it was a really good night, and the talk by Ellie Cole was really enlightening. I must admit I didn't know much about her, but as Councillor McLaren said, she's the most decorated Olympic athlete that we have in Australia, and she had a tremendous story to tell. Lots of downs along the way, but her resilience getting back up, and she's now a great advocate for Paralympians sports on the Australian and the international stage. Special congratulations to Ben Bletchenden, who got the junior prize. He's a hockey player. For the senior award, Shahwa Jin, he's a Muay Thai sports person. He's from the Karen community and settled here probably, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. And as part of getting involved with the community, he's got really heavily involved in Muay Thai, and has done some tremendous stuff on the national stage. Next in the master category, Brett Hall, AFL player. He went over to, I think it was Ireland during the course of the year with the Australian national team, and had a ball over there, over a few Guinnesses as well. No doubt they had plenty of that. And the main award for the evening and for the year for the Sportsperson of the Year was Ryan Slater. Now he's a volleyballer, and it's a sport which we don't really know a lot about. I mean, he's up against AFL players, and there was hockey and I don't remember the others, but so for an international volleyballer to come from Albany, he was in Germany, and during the night actually phoned him and had a conversation with Ryan over the phone. It was really good to hear, and I used to play volleyball a few years ago, and it was great to see the development of volleyball in Albany. And also, I'd just like to also thank Judith Want and her team at the Recreation Services team. Judith does a mountain of work to get these awards up and running every year, and all the kudos that Judith gets is highly warranted, and everyone was very thankful for what she did. I wasn't here over the Easter long weekend because I've been up in Perth, but I hear it was a great weekend, and I heard Speedway was very, very successful, a huge weekend, and they ran out of food. And there was lots of traffic going back up to Perth, and I saw a lot of the sprint cars, trailers, and yeah, so it's great to see so many people in Albany. Thank you.
Well, I'd hate to see it when you've got a lot to report. Councillor McKinley.
Thank you, Mayor. That's what I was going to say, yeah. We need another session. I'd just like to say that we have the winter sport starting up very shortly. The Great Southern Football League, the first game of the season, starts on Anzac Day, a very important clash between North Albany and Railways at Keep the Sheep Stadium. So hope everybody comes along and enjoys it. So yeah, look forward to the winter sports starting. Obviously the netball, soccer, hockey, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so it's all happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grimmer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and I haven't congratulated you yet, Deputy Mayor Terry, so a warm congratulations. I myself have had good reason to sort of focus a bit on my family and my community over the last month, so I haven't done that much, but I did attend a Good Food Shed meeting last Monday, and I'd heard that there'd been a fatality on Lower Denmark Road, unfortunately, and it was actually one of the guys I played cricket with that was a backpacker that worked on his farm, and which is incredibly sad. And I was very proud of my community when they suggested that we'd have a very good year with a good food year, so we've actually put money towards getting the family over to help them to come over to look after them. And the other money that we've donated to is a local lady called Carol Bidoff, who looks after bird life and injured birds and that around the neighbourhood, and we've put a donation through to her as well. It sort of makes you quite good to know that you've got a community that cares. We've got a couple of people issues coming up over the next couple of months, and I think it's really important that we actually understand that as councillors we're here to serve the community and the people that got us here. So I look forward to debating those issues over the next couple of months. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bijou.
Thank you, Mayor. So in amongst our usual array, although there seem to be a few extra meetings and things since the last council meeting, one of the highlights for me was I had the opportunity to attend the Arts, Culture and Climate event that was held in late March. And as well as hearing from a panel of local performers, we got to see the documentaries that had been made. One was about the recent event, Traps and Ladders, it was back in October last year. But largely it was a celebration about our amazing community here and the regeneration of seagrass in Oyster Harbour. And this is a world first, being able to replant the seagrass and seeing the revival there. The whole project was a collaboration between scientists, landowners, the community, and then the particular event back in October was a celebration of that with young performers through Southern Edge Arts, and we got to hear from some of them and the messages they had about the importance of arts, culture and climate and that collaboration. We also saw a documentary about the amazing Descend from the Stars, where there were 6 performances across Western Australia and they were all devised locally. The nearest one to us was in Porongara, and seeing how that all came together, and again that sense of hope. So even though there are some pretty horrendous things going on in the globe, locally we can make a difference, and there is stuff that we can all do, and working together, and often through the arts is the bringing of people together. For me, out of that, I had the opportunity to go up the Calgon River with some of the local cultural advisors and elders, and I thought I knew a little bit about fish traps in Albany. Most of us are familiar with the ones in Oyster Harbour, but there are at least 6 known fish traps in Calgon River before we get to the Calgon town site. So that was really informative and really eye-opening to me to be able to continually learn about things that are in my own backyard. So that was a bit of a highlight for me.
Thank you. Councillor Trail.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thought I'd divide my time into issues, events and personal. So I'll start with a couple of issues that I'll make comment on that have come up over the last month or two. First is of course the flood and water damage that we've suffered in Albany over the last few weeks, and you have been very close to the waterline there yourself, but so have a lot of other people in Albany. So Well done to our works team to actually to fix a lot of those problems still going on. It's been a major event, two major events actually, that have really hit us pretty hard. And I'm sort of disappointed that that some of the squeaky wheels around town make most noise, but really there's a lot of people who are suffering flood and water damage in silence, getting on with things, and they need just as much attention, I think, as some of those the noisy ones who we hear a lot about. So from that point of view, well done to the team, to Paul and your team there, to actually try and get around these problems. No doubt we'll have some more in the next weeks and months ahead. The other one that's come up quite regularly over summer, especially, is illegal camping. You could call it illegal, unlawful camping in sites around Albany. We're still trying to work out a way to try and get around this. There's no easy solution. Our rangers are trying to take a softly approach, but sometimes it really comes, it gets beyond that. There was a bit of publicity when some were moved on from Middleton Beach, Binallup, recently, and not only in urban areas, but tonight I've just been hearing reports of camping at Young Siding Hall. A group who saw on the Mundabiddi app that there was free camping at Young Siding Hall, which was news to anybody in Young Siding. So we've got these issues to actually contend with. I don't know what the solution is. We'll be working through, I guess. Try and work out the best way. Look, we're not the only regional or centre in WA to have this. It's an Australia-wide problem, I think. We don't mind so much the illegal campers. We just like them not to leave a mess. I think that's the main thing that we'd like them to do. So that's an ongoing issue, I think. So events, thank you, Councillor McLaren, for mentioning the Connecting Threads exhibition. I was very closely involved with that. It was a fabulous time with my colleague Sally Pell, who is a collector and upcycler of Albany Woolen Mills material, and she does a fabulous job. She is so enthusiastic. It was rescheduled, of course, from those floods which affected the town hall 3 weeks earlier, so it was first week of this month that we rescheduled it, and it was great to work in with the town hall. It's always great to work in with the town hall crowd. They're so fabulously positive and helpful. So Nathan, I've asked you to pass it on again if you wish. But we'll be back to do more events with Connecting Threads and the Albany Woolen Mills project. That it's one of those parts of Albany, and Lester Coyne in his Welcome to Country said it's just one of those iconic parts of Albany that we need to remember, because 25 odd years since it closed, it's fading from memory. So thank you for buying a blanket, and I hope you'll use it well. So that's the Connecting Threads. The other one that I did attend on Thursday before Easter was the opening of the new exhibition at the Town Hall. It's called The Shining. High Vis in Focus, and it's the only exhibition I've ever been to where I was encouraged to wear high vis, and I was lucky enough to open the event. It was great, and so that's on until May 23rd. Worth a look, and you'll be dazzled by it, I'm sure. And personal note, Mr. Mayor, I'm going back to be a student, which is a bit of a shock for me. After many years, the scary thing is that you keep your old student number. So thanks to UWA in Albany and in Perth, they've encouraged me to do this, and so I'll be looking forward to that, and looking into Albany 2026 as an event, a commemoration, and something to plan for the future. So that's my next 3 years' worth. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, that's not fair on other students, actually. Mature age students always make it harder to top the class. And I will confirm that we've received a letter from Minister Whitby informing us that we have got disaster relief recovery money, so we're eligible for that. Councillor Sutton. No, thank you. Councillor Leonetti. No, thank you. Okay. Response to previous public questions taken on notice, there are none. The public question time. Each person that is making a presentation has up to 4 minutes. There's a traffic light system there. The green light goes for 3.5 minutes. At 3 minutes 30, the orange light comes on. At 4 minutes, we'd ask you to conclude any presentation in a timely manner, please. And obviously, we ask people not to interrupt while people are speaking, and that respect is the order of the day. So, first of all, Sandy Smith.
Smith, 55 Pegasus Boulevard, McHale. I'm speaking against CCS 709, Surrender and New Replacement Lease, Final Approval Rose Gardens, Beachside Holiday Park, portion of Crown Reserve 22698 version 2. Thank you for the updated report of CCS 709 and the attachments to include some discussion of the impacts of the long stay tenants who took the time to submit responses to the public question comment on the surrender and issue of new lease. As per the discussion points 17 and 18 of the report, the impact of the corporate giant RAC requiring a surrender of the current lease is so they can compel the current leasee to arrange vacant possession, whereby dispossessing the current long-term tenants of their home during a time when rentals are virtually non-existent or affordable in Albany compared to the affordable rent that they have been paying. Discussion points 17 and 18 acknowledge the stress of housing disruption to vulnerable people, financial hardship, limited availability of affordable housing. It doesn't acknowledge that these vulnerable people impacted don't have capacity or finances to appeal to the State Administrative Tribunal to bring a case against the current lessee if they don't like the termination enforced on them, as suggested by the Mayor when he moved the recommendation at committee. Really? That's the city's recommendation to these people affected. This is not somebody's view being impacted or a noise objection or fear of their lifestyle being impacted. This is people being forced out of their long-term tenancy with the minimum notice period the Act enforces, not more, the minimum. Point 43, alternate options. The report doesn't even consider the option to issue an assigned lease, whereby under Section 10C of the Act of the Long Stay Agreement would bind the park's successors. The city could agree not to surrender the lease, but agree to an assigned lease for 6 months. Then accept a surrender and issue a new lease to cover the coastal hazard protections and the redevelopment conditions that the city want to impose. And then the long stay tenants would then receive their termination and a further 180 days. So that would enact a 12-month notice period, which is much more reasonable for people to secure other accommodation. We know what waiting periods are like. This would not be kicking the can down the road. This would be the city supporting some really vulnerable residents by creating a more reasonable period of 12 months for people to secure other arrangements. And then the corporate giant RAC could negotiate directly with their inherited long stay tenants instead of trying to impose a non-negotiable offer from afar, as they are doing now. Imagine if there was a forced resumption of a property you own, where you were told the compensation to you would be approximately 13 or 14% for you to relocate it. You know the assignment of the lease can legally be done. It's been done 11 times before on this lease. There's no legal risk to agreeing to an alternate option of an assigned lease ahead of surrender and reissue in October. We're just surrendering and reissuing the Middleton Beach's Big Four lease to give them a maximum lease period due to their claim of upgrading their park. And councillors, you should be aware from previous corporate giant proposals ahead of granting leases that they don't always eventuate. Remember Harvest Road suggesting they would build a restaurant and a helipad? None of that eventuated. Remember the decision you make tonight will not be forgotten.
Thank you. Pepper mention.
Apologies. Pippa mentioned Rose Gardens. Mayor and councillors, we still do not have answers to questions previously asked. For those who wish to relocate, we do not have time frames of having spaces available at the other parks. People would be hesitant to shift to the other park belonging to a claim. Without guarantee, the same situation would not happen if a claim were to sell that too. Having stated by Sally Chaco that deep sewerage must go in before anyone can move there, this is still an unknown option. Panorama does not know a time frame, so it becomes very difficult to book a house relocator, as we do not have dates to give them, and they are all extremely busy, so require plenty of notice in terms of months. There is no way all of this will be achieved in 180 days. Will ex gratia payments be upfront, as there will be costs initially of furniture removal and storage, disconnection to be organised, accommodation while things are in process, then at the other end it all must be connected up and furniture moved back in, and any damage done by the relocator to the house would require other tradesmen to be involved. Flooring will obviously be damaged when cutting in half. What hasn't been considered is also the removal of sheds and garages, and the fact that concreting has to be redone at the other end too. Hence, ex gratia payments are not good enough. Who is going to be responsible for cutting down park trees and fences to get houses moved? This has to be the responsibility of the park owner, as residents do not have the tools or the physical ability to do such a job. Preparation has to take place before removal can be done. None of this can be done without disruption to the park and its operations. For those who do not wish to relocate, the council have stated they are advocating for access to support services. This has not been discussed at all. There are also a certain number of residents who require assistance in all ways. The solutions so far offered are not for everyone. Clearing up of sites also requires more discussion, as it seems logical that as the RAC will be bulldozing the area, this could be done by them. The obvious solution for RAC is to pay people the market value they are owed, and none of the above would become an issue. Thank you.
Robin Bollard.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren, for the amendment. We weren't expecting this on the night, but it's
Robin, can we have your name?
Sorry?
Name and suburb, please.
my name,
Your name and suburb.
Robin Bollard,
Suburb.
Rose Gardens, Caravan Park, Emu Point. It's become obvious to the residents in the park that the council have been wanting this sale since October 24, and we've asked the council to help the residents of the park find accommodation. It's not one size fits all for everybody. The monetary offers so far from acclaimed parks have been vague, and many elderly residents couldn't organise the moving of their homes, and some homes can't be moved, they're too old. I fear some folk will just stay until the bulldozers come, or some will abandon their homes. Surely the council and politicians can put some pressure on community agencies to settle some people in accommodation. Give them priority, because they will be homeless and they are elderly. So far we've heard nothing from the council, just words. The council's been involved in creating community living in Albany, such as the Oyster Harbour plans for housing, and now you are participating in creating more homeless people, elderly people. Can you not see the double standards here? There has been a lot in the news of late about the lack of housing, and caravan parks have, up until now, filled in some gaps by allowing elderly folk to buy and sell park homes until now. But now overnight, they are valueless. I feel we have only had offers of some compensation from the parties, the two parties, because we have been prominent in the newspapers and in the media, spreading concern for the elderly, who are mostly all pensioners. And we know from the past that acclaimed parks rarely negotiate. Its attitude is business, take it or leave it. So please, we need some solutions to this mess, this potential sale to RAC. From the council, from Acclaim Parks and from the RAC, we need some compromise and compassion. All parties should be talking to the residents and not simply ignoring us. Thank you.
Reg Hoyling. Reg?
This might be real good. Reg Hoyling, Rose Garden Caravan Park. I bought in Rose Garden Caravan Park on the 5th of May 2023, and my agreement states that I'm there until 2032. Now, what the hell's going on? I'm a 73-year-old pensioner. My partner is 78-year-old, and we've got a lot of health problems, real bad ones. I've got stage 4 cancer. She's got probably 12 months to live. I've got 2 years left. That's why I moved to Albany, to fulfil my bucket list. And I thought I did. And you're saying about relocation, I got a fellow, I'm from Queensland, so I've got no idea what happens here. I got a fellow to come and give me a quote to relocate my home. I got the quote yesterday on an email. It's $176,000 for a home, for Christ's sake. Now, I paid only $170 for it, and now it's going to cost me another $176,000 to relocate within a 100-kilometre radius. And the reason why I bought in Emu Point is because we're very close to the hospital, which we both need. So where's a bit of sense go? Come on. Thank you.
Regan Cake.
Good evening, councillors and city staff. My name is Regan Cake from Dynamic Planning and Developments, and I'm here to speak in support of the Macau North Local Structure Plan, which is item DIS 437. In addition to the deputation tonight, we also attended the Development Services Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago and have provided some supplementary information to councillors ahead of tonight's meeting. So I'll simply focus on the key points and hope that council will consider. And for the key points, we hope council will consider tonight, as well as answering any questions should there be any. The project started back in May of 2023, where a comprehensive consultant team was established to examine the constraints impacting the subject land. The initial work resulted in a preliminary structure plan concept being presented to city officers and also the Department of Planning in March of 2024. Following the initial review by the city and the department, the layout and all supporting documentation was revised for formal lodgement in November of 2024, which then facilitated advertising, formal assessment by the city officers and also a range of other government departments. This ultimately culminated in the package of documentation that has been provided as part of the agenda tonight. So since commencement, this process to get to tonight's council meeting has been almost 2 years. And throughout this assessment process, a number of concessions have been made on behalf of the landowner with regard to the proposed residential density, the road layout, orientation of lots to ensure improved north-south orientation, and also the distribution and function of public open space. These concessions have resulted in a structure plan that does better align with the city's strategic planning framework, and one that has received a recommendation of support from the city's officers, which we are thankful for. The modified structure plan being considered tonight for approval will provide a yield of approximately 719 residential lots. This presents a 26% increase on the existing approved ODP in place for the land currently. This is despite the lower densities being proposed, but has resulted from a much more efficient road layout. The modified structure plan is also supported by a range of technical documentation that demonstrates the land is suitable for development in the manner proposed, and whilst a number of queries were raised by the government departments during the assessment process, none of these will impact the actual structure plan layout itself before you tonight. As a result, we kindly request that Council resolve to adopt the recommendation of support for the proposed structure plan and allow it to progress to the next stage of assessment with the Department of Planning, where all outstanding queries can be resolved with the relevant government departments, and a final version of the structure plan and all supporting reports can be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Nicholson.
My name's Janet Nicholson, live at Rose Gardens. We need the money up front for the removals. We cannot do it ourselves. We're all pensioners and don't have that kind of money. And I don't even know if my house can be moved. We need an extension on 180 days. Can't be done in 180 days. Nothing's been done. We don't even know where we're going. So that's pretty good. Then we've got to put our stuff in storage if we can find a storage unit. Got no idea where I'm going to find one of them. I've checked, most of them are full. If this doesn't happen, looks like I'll be camping. I do believe that you've got the ranger going around $200 getting fined for camping. Great. Oh well, we'll get a GoFundMe page, no big deal, and I'll put down why I get it. And I'll name names. So that's it. Oh, the camping sites, we would like some extra, things for rubbish. And a couple of toilets would be nice. So that's that. Do you have a dump site in this town? I haven't found one, a public one. So where do we dump it? Down the toilet? Not a good idea. I spoke to a couple of my friends in Perth. I mentioned it was Crown land, and they're looking into it to see if they've got any land rights. I told them there was plenty of houses on the blocks. It would help their people. No problems at all. So they're going to have a talk to their lawyers. No problems. So I thought I might as well try. And my son, now, he works in a big corporation and he's putting it around and rubbishing, RAC. I'm rubbishing all of RAC in any of the places that I go. So RAC, see me coming. They say karma bites. Well, I hope it does. Thank you.
Jared Rindell. Microphone, please.
Sorry. Jared Rindle from Acumen Development Solutions, representing V-Gate and Lancaster Park on item DIS 437, the North McHale Structure Plan. Good evening, Mayor, Councillors, CEO and officers. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you again tonight. I'll reiterate the full deputation that Regan gave you just a while ago on the journey that we've been on with the local structure plan, and also want to provide my support tonight for the recommendation in the officers' report and thank them for that work done. As Regan said, we have completed considerable work in putting together the new structure plan for North McHale. There was an existing ODP which is due to expire in October this year. And so we have completed significant work by expert consultants, including engineering, hydrology, environmental and traffic engineering. We've also been afforded several meetings with the city to work through the LSP, and we really appreciate that open and collaborative process. And we believe that that has reached some good outcomes for the LSP, balancing the desires of the landowners in the area, but also closely aligning with the city's planning strategy for urban development and new housing. The council recommendations and notes for additional reports in due course are acceptable and acknowledged by us and the landowners. And that is for us a very usual piece of the process that we would go through in terms of the next steps for a local structure plan heading off to Department of Planning and WAPC. We'll continue to work collaboratively with the city officers and also the Department of Planning in finalising the structure plan heading up to a WAPC consideration. We have been working with the adjoining landowners of the rural land to the west and north of us as part of a broader district structure plan concept for the broader McHale area. While the immediate funding for that DSP is not in place, and hopefully Deputy Mayor Terry's discussions with the state government have put that on the agenda still. We believe that the North McHale LSP can be a key driver to commence the overall development within that precinct and provide the population to support that broader district structure plan in the future. In front of council tonight is an opportunity to support the planning that will bring to market around 700 affordable home sites in a precinct that is development ready. As we've discussed in several of our other meetings, this site has no environmental constraints. The services are readily available to be extended throughout the development, and we have a major landowner ready to commence staged development. That's critically important for the City of Albany. We've heard on several occasions tonight about issues of housing supply. And that's not an Albany thing, but obviously as a council it's in your hands, I suppose, to help alleviate some of that concern. The support of the council tonight will provide the opportunity for the LSP to progress to the state planning phase of the approvals. As I said, we will continue to work through the detailed reports and planning outcomes. We thank you for your interest in our matter to date and for your consideration of the item tonight. Thank you.
Annabelle Pooley.
On? Okay, thank you. My name is Annabelle Pooley of Parker Street, Lockyer, Mayor and Councillors. I haven't addressed you since early December last year. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'd like to speak to you tonight about DIS 437, the North McHale Local Structure Plan. Having proposed to reduce the overall density by 152 housing lots, I'm pleased to know that the developers have now agreed to increase the number of lots from 570 to 719, an increase of 149 lots. Thank you to Councillor McLaren and to Councillor Beju for voting against the motion at the DIS committee meeting, and no doubt making some inquiries behind the scene. I strongly encourage the City to advocate to the WA Planning Commission to ensure that the absolute maximum density of housing lots is ultimately achieved and not watered down by developers exploiting loopholes in state planning policies. I'd like to draw your attention to the Albany Local Planning Strategy 2019, which states under housing, there is a clear need for more diverse housing product, including affordable 1 and 2 bedroom units, apartments and smaller dwellings to meet the needs of the city's ageing population, retirees attracted to the city, the predicted increase in young adults and the retention of tertiary students. The Great Southern Housing Needs Analysis identified unmet demand for 1 and 2 bedroom dwellings in the region. A focus on smaller, high amenity housing, close to services and employment, will help to increase both affordability and diversity of housing stock, as well as catering for the needs of the ageing population, end quote. To fully align with the planning strategy, Council must ensure that all future housing developments provide the desired mix of affordable housing options, including 1 and 2 bedroom units, possibly multi-storey apartments, grouped housing and social housing.
These types of housing will help ease the housing crisis and help young people get started on the housing ownership ladder, something previous generations have more easily acquired without realising just how lucky we were until recently. With regard to the removal of the commercial zone, the North McHale area will desperately need a commercial precinct as more homes are built on the existing cleared land to the west, northwest and north of the Lancaster Road development site. This will help alleviate the volume of traffic needing to go into the city centre and go some way to addressing concerns raised by Main Roads WA. As city planners have stated, until such time as a district level structure plan is created, local structure planning for the Lancaster Road site is premature. We urgently need a North McHale district structure plan to guide good and proper planning and development in this area. I would therefore encourage the Council to include the following points in the DIS 437 motion. Point 3, that Council strongly advocates to the WA Planning Commission and Planning, Housing and Lands Minister John Carey to compile a North McHale district structure plan as a matter of urgency prior to any further development in that area. And point 4, that any future development in the North McHale area and the proposed new structure plan include a commercial centre to provide employment opportunities for future new residents and reduce the volume of traffic needing to travel outside the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Pemberton.
Mr Mayor and Councillors, it's Michael Pemberton from Shorts Place in Miramar. And I would like to address a couple of topics if I could, and I'll be quick about it. The first one is buy local. I guess over the past 12, 18 months, I've been looking at the amount that the city spends with various people just to see where the money's going, just to understand what's happening. And it became focused on supermarkets in recent times, as you can remember. And when I did the sums before coming here tonight in a hurry, $102,000 totally has been spent on groceries with supermarkets. And of those supermarkets, when we look at buy local, we find that 91,000 of that 102,000 went to the multinationals. So that isn't a very good example of buy local, and I think as we went through the discussions, the night it was announced, the result that introduced deregulated trading, the Mayor said that he would believe that Albany people would support their local businesses, and he would believe that they would not drive past but drive in. What's happened is, from the city's point of view, I think they must be driving past, Mr Mayor. The second thing is about cost of living. I guess we're all touched by that, and the stories here just make you cry with what's happening in that regard, to on top of accommodation, having that ever-present cost of living. And because I was doing sums on some of the businesses and the expenditures, I had a look at F24, or the calendar year of 2024, and $178,000 has been spent on catering. Now, I don't know what the catering is, but I would think in my life and everybody else's life, with the cost of living, people would be pulling back and thinking twice about what they were going to do and where they were going to spend their money and where they got that next meal coming from. And finally, that word of homelessness rings with me tonight again. It comes up. people about to be homeless? Possibly. I would hope that the RAC would have a better conscience than that and do something about it. And maybe we got to get Roger Cook to give them a wind up, and you might get it done. But anyway, during the local, the state elections, homelessness came up there, and there was one project, and I don't know whether you can do anything about it, but what they were doing was they'd given $8.4 million for a 2-bedroom unit. $8.4 million. Where that could be turned into about 20 2-bedroom units that would accommodate some of these homeless people that we see coming out of the shadows, out of the dark in the morning, not having a home to live in. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Well, that concludes public question time and all those people who've requested to speak. Does anyone else wish to speak? No? Okay. Mr. CEO, applications for leave of absence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have received no applications. I will just check with you and elected members. Is there anyone wishing to make an application? No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There are no petitions and deputations. Confirmation of the minutes. The draft motion is that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 25th of March 2025 as previously be distributed, be confirmed as a true and accurate record of proceedings. Someone to move. Councillor Trail. Councillor Deputy Mayor Terry. Councillor Trail. Deputy Mayor Terry. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
There are no presentations and there's no unresolved business from previous meetings. What we'll do is bring DIS 437 through first, and then we will deal with CCS 709 second, so that those people who are in the gallery can have their item heard and dealt with, and don't have to sit through the rest of the meeting. So DIS 437 is the North McHale Local Structure Plan version 2. Any objection to that? No. Is that the Council resolved pursuant to Schedule 2, Clauses 19 and 20 of the Planning and Development Local Planning Schemes Regulation 2015 to consider all submissions made to the local government and forward the draft LSP to the Western Australian Planning Commission with a recommendation to conditionally support approval subject to further information and modifications, specifically addressing A, updated local water management strategy to address newer comments, B, updated environmental noise assessment to address newer noise branch comments, C, an assessment of the development's traffic impacts from and on surrounding transport networks, including a review in the context of the future intent of the district structure planning to identify necessary road hierarchy and adjoining network upgrades. D, a contribution plan to account for the required upgrades to existing infrastructure. E, a bushfire management plan to be updated to align with the recent version of the bushfire planning for bushfire guidelines. F, proposed staging of subdivision and development. And G, additional recommendations outlined in the schedule of modifications. And 2, notify the proponent, landowners and submitters of its decision. Someone to move. Deputy Mayor Terry, Councillor Trail, Deputy Mayor Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wasn't quite prepared for this right now, but I'll give it a shot. Yeah, it's been quite a bit of a process to get to this point, and I wish to acknowledge the proponents, consultants, with the amount of work that they have put in subsequent to the advertising, and addressed a number of the queries that were raised as part of the submissions, and have made a number of changes to the structure plan compared to the advertised one, and the main one being that a high yield development, a higher lot development or yield development of lots, and also improving the road network as well. We did discuss about the increase in the density as well, which was good to see. I do note comments by Annabelle tonight and in some of the submissions as well for there to be a higher development there, or higher R codes. But this is what the proponent has put forward. It's not the most ideal, but it's something to get the ball moving. And the proponent has made it very clear that the development itself is not constrained with other places like up at Yakamai North, that they can, once this has gone through the WAPC, that they basically commit to getting the subdivision approvals done within hopefully the next 12 months, and then a number of those lots to come on market not long after that. There are still a number of outstanding things that need to be worked through, especially in relation to the transport networks and contribution plan for those roads, especially for Lancaster Road and Glanville Road, and upgrades there. And for there to be that contribution plan that needs to be worked out with the WAPC, and we heard from the proponents tonight that they're willing to work with the WAPC to work that through. So with all that, I commend everyone to support this, and let's get on with opening up a significant portion of land to hopefully address some of the affordability issues that a lot of our residents are facing, and also increase the number of people wanting to live here. We have had a report recently about the number of people moving to Albany in the last, especially in the December quarter, compared to previously. We need to open up land and make it available and get things moving. So, urge everyone to support. Thank you.
Councillor Trail.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not one to be an expert on planning issues, but one to actually take into account the need for homes in Albany. I think I heard in the last few weeks that Albany was the third fastest growing regional city in this regional centre in Australia. So, from all those points of view, this is desperately needed. So, thank you to Regan, to Jared, and also to Annabelle for addressing those points in your submissions and your talks this evening. I think it's important to note that that there are some conditions here, as the Deputy Mayor said. The transport, I think, is the main one. All of us have noted, everybody in the audience and us around the table, I think, have noted in the last year or two the increase in traffic around Albany. So this is going to further increase traffic with the switch, or the increased number of lots that we've been able to manage to put in there, 20% more than originally planned, which is good news. That really is, I think, a very important thing to be addressed in those conditions. That's condition C in the recommendation. So from those points of view, it's really important also to consider that we've got land to the west and north, as I think Regan and Jared said, that is waiting for development. This is the start. I'd like to see that goes north and west. We've got a natural boundary now with the ring road to actually enclose our city centre. That's and that's going to be a great area for lower cost housing, for medium density housing. Perhaps not as high as some of us would wish, but I'd really like to see some more high density living in the inner urban areas rather than the suburban areas that we've got. But this is, as the Deputy Mayor said, this is a really good start. Not perfect, but let's get it moving. No environmental conditions, that's great. Also great news. We won't have hold-ups and also arguments, I suppose, over the environmental assessments that need to be done in other subdivisions. So from that point of view, that's a good outcome as well. So I think congratulations to the proponents and also our city planning staff as well, to Jan and your team, actually coming up with this. We desperately need more lots released all around Albany, and this is going to tick a lot of those boxes. So from my point of view, let's go with this. Let's see what what the WA Planning Commission address in terms of these considerations, and let's hope it gets moving and keeps moving in the right direction. So I'd ask you all to support this as it stands. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Baiju.
Thank you, Mayor. I find myself very conflicted over this proposal. We do have an urgent need to address housing, and it's unusual for me to be speaking against a planning development proposal, but I have real concerns that Albany is being shortchanged. Yes, we do need to move quickly, but I don't think we should be accepting a compromise. To me, it's not good enough to go for low density. There is the opportunity, I'm sure, and it's great that we're at this point. We've seen some improvements, but I don't think that it goes far enough. Urban land, or serviceable urban land, is a finite resource. We've heard that the ring road is a constraint. Just like we have a limitation on rural land, we need to protect our serviceable serviceable urban land. We should be doing better. Ideally, an R25, not R20 under sufferance. We need diversity in housing. We need to make the most of the sewer and the water and the roads that are available. If Albany's growing fast, we need to do the very best on behalf of current and future landowners. Accepting suboptimal is not good planning. We want the highest and best use for the land. So to reluctantly compromise it at the top of R20 instead of perhaps R30 or even R40, I'm concerned that we have an indicative structure plan or a concept plan to the land north of Gladwell Road that includes R20, R30 and R40. So if it's good enough for the land north of Gladwell, why isn't it good enough for the land south of Gladwell through to Lancaster Road, which is this area? We do need to look to the future. We need to look to the long-term future. It does take a long time to bring land on stream in Albany. The very fact that the current ODP has expired after 10 years and not come to fruition is because the costs and the process are very lengthy down here. Our community deserves better into the future. More medium density should be supported. So on the current basis, even though we've achieved some good outcomes, it's suboptimal and it's not good in the best interests of Albany. If there's more than 1,700 people going to live here, they deserve better and some opportunity for amenities. This is all residential. There are no amenities proposed. We heard an argument that it's low density, it doesn't warrant amenities. By the same token, if there's no amenities, there's no justification for slightly higher density, so it's a bit of a circular argument. It's a bit of a cop-out, it's an unacceptable compromise, and in its current format, I can't find myself supporting this proposal.
Speaker for. Councillor Leonetti.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm for this. One reason, at least there's no cul-de-sacs. They've actually put a bit of thought in it, made the roads in and out so nobody can get caught, which I'm very amazed by, because every time you see there's normally a cul-de-sac in there, so well done, guys. The other thing is, and I can see Councillor Baju's argument, but guys, we need to get these kids out of the house. I'm not in for these real high density when we're getting out side of it. I do agree in the city centre, high density, but out around McHale there, behind us and out Oyster Harbour, I'm sorry, I reckon this is really good. This is good for your average family with 3 or 4 kids, get out in the backyard, have a bit of a play, instead of sitting inside on the computer. Thank you, I think we should all go for it.
Speaker against. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mayor. I, like Councillor Bayou, am conflicted about this. Obviously, we want houses and we want them quickly. I want to make some points about the process of this. We are in the middle of the process. What we are agreeing here, if we support this amendment, is that it goes up to the WAPC. Now, they may make additional changes. In fact, we're calling upon them to get the important things that we don't have before us here, like the traffic study, like the water and the noise and all the other issues that are still outstanding. So this is not a done deal. This project is not completely finished. And what we're doing as a council, or what we're being asked to do, is kick it down the road to the next decision maker. Now, we do have an important role in this decision, and we could say no, like Councillor Bayou was saying. We could argue that it doesn't deliver as many houses as we want. We definitely could argue, and I did argue in the council committee stage, that it doesn't meet the need for commercial activity there, which we will need. We need to stop funneling people into one activity center, and we need to have these distributed activity center for so many reasons, and one of them is reduced pressure on our environment and reduced pressure on our roads. So those are the points I want to make about the process. The other points I want to make are these, the additional information that was provided in between the committee stage and this has been incredibly enlightening to me, and I want to thank the developers for doing that, because when everybody who made a submission was actually considered. You know, it matters to them that the points they raised were considered, and there was a decision about, sorry, Mr. Mayor? Yes? It matters to them that there was a decision about how their point impacted the overall decision making. And what I could read from the table that was provided is that there was quite a lot of consideration given to the points that were raised. In fact, that's why we have 719 lots instead of the original 500. So I was impressed by that. And I wanted to let the developers know that that was a good step on their part to provide us with the information of how they took on board the criticisms of the originally advertised local structure plan. The last thing I want to say is in the absence of the district structure plan, we are struggling. Unless we have this district structure plan, which says where our commercial activity is going to be and puts in place these building blocks of our city, we can only guess and hope and you know, approve these things with the minimalist, well, not minimalist, but just not enough information in order to make sure that we're developing Albany as our residents want it to be developed. So part of what I really liked about Annabelle's presentation was to ask us to seriously consider lobbying Minister Carey and the planning department for an urgent priority of being the district structure plan. And if I had support for that amendment at this stage, I would have moved that as an amendment to this. But without that, because we don't really have the support for that, I merely want to make the point to the officers and to the other councillors that really this isn't really quite good enough, but I do accept that it is a step forward, and really I'm going to be supporting it with all of these criticisms of it, because I know that you have heard what the criticisms are, and the WAPC hopefully will address the criticisms and we will get a better result.
Thank you. Just a clarification, Councillor McLaren, I'll give you the undertaking that with post haste we will be pursuing the state government for a funding agreement to be signed to get the district structure plan underway at the first practical moment. A speaker for or against? No. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Terry, you have the right to reply.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bayou, Councillor McLaren, for your thoughts. And you know, even when I talked to the item, I did talk to, it is not, what is being presented is not ideal, but because we would like to have a higher density than what there is. The removal of the commercial part of it from the old development plan does compromise the whole structure plan in and of itself as well. However, we are well aware, as the Mayor just said, about the North McHale District Structure Plan, getting that moving, and the proponent or the planning consultant here tonight talked about they're already in discussions with the adjoining landowners about locating commercial activities on the adjoining boundary or close to as part of that larger North McHale structure plan. So, you know, we need to assess this as it is at the moment. There are other things that are to be addressed with the WAPC, and they may come back and say, we don't like this and we don't like that, and we think you need to do better. So let them make that decision. Well, what we are doing is enabling to get that process moving, and to get as many of these blocks available to market in the shortest possible time. I urge everyone to support. Thank you.
That closes debate. All right. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 8-1 against Councillor Beju.
Okay, we'll go to CCS 709, which is surrender and replacement lease final approval, Rose Gardens Beachside Holiday Park, portion of Reserve 22698 Emu Point, version 2. Now, there is an addendum in the agenda to make a point particularly around the change to the report with greater detail. But the recommendation is that the Council grants the final approval for the surrender of the current lease to Redwood Corporate Proprietary Limited and the new replacement lease to RAC Tourism Assets Proprietary Limited over portion of Crown Reserve 22698 Emu Point, consistent with previous resolution of 22nd of October 2024 and as detailed in section 15 of this report. This decision considers all submissions received during the advertising period. Do I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor Terry. A seconder? Councillor Trail. Thank you. Now, it's obvious that we have an amendment, so I think rather than go through that motion, well, I think we'll go straight to the amendment, and then obviously you get the opportunity to speak if the amendment's carried, and if not, we'll come back to you anyway. So, Councillor McLaren, would you like to read your proposed amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. I am moving that the committee recommendation be amended to include the following points. That Council acknowledges that the 19 submissions received identify serious social impacts of the eviction of long-stay tenants from the Rose Gardens Caravan Park. 2, commits to advocating for residents displaced by the replacement lease to secure alternative accommodation in the region before the park closes to prevent these vulnerable residents from experiencing homelessness. 3, requests that the city advocate to organizations including RAC Tourism Assets Pty Ltd and Redwood Corporate Pty Ltd for replacements in other caravan parks, including fast-tracking new lots if needed, fair compensation for residents who are to be evicted, and financial assistance to assist residents to relocate. 4, requests that RAC Tourism Assets Pty Ltd and Redwood Corporate Pty Ltd assist individuals to relocate in the following ways. In the case where they cannot move their home, to pay fair compensation. In the case where they can relocate, to cover the costs of relocation. And 5, notes that the city has no control over the commercial sale transaction beyond the legislated process for considering the request to surrender the current lease and approve a replacement lease to the REC.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Grimmer. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. There was considerable debate at the committee stage of this substantive amendment. And during that debate, every councillor who spoke expressed a desire to help the residents in the plight. There was some confusion over what the council's role is, and there is still a high expectation of what we can achieve as a council. And I am merely saying to us, we can do more. We don't have to just accept that our role is approving that a new owner of this lease will come in and operate a caravan park. We can, because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in, that have been well documented, of the crisis in affordable housing, of the already stretched services for the homeless. We know that these are vulnerable tenants who are poorly protected by the current laws in WA about long-stay tenancies. So we can, as a council, look at all these situations converging to make these individuals suffer because of this one decision that we're making about who's going to be the leaseholder and the circumstances of that transaction. So what I'm saying is, as a council, let's do better. Let's take that extra step, recognizing that we don't want to make a decision that will put anyone into homelessness, and we can do better. We already, in fact, have been working. I know that the mayor and I know that the city has already been working on trying to find alternatives for accommodation for these affected people. And so why not make that part of our decision? Instead of just saying, you know, okay, they might be a good landlord and let's agree to this transition. Why don't we say, this matters to us, the impact on these residents matters to us, and we will take that step and go forward and provide some help for them. And I've said in my rationale in this response that some of the facts that we've been given in the substantial comments that were given to us by the residents when we asked for submissions about their opinions about the transfer of ownership of their of this lease. And they gave us heart-wrenching stories of their personal circumstances, which makes it incredibly difficult for them to find a new place to live. We've heard about people who consider themselves in the end stage of life. That is the most difficult time when to pull up stumps and relocate. I haven't gone into a lot of detail here because we have it in the submissions that people have made, and we've heard it because they've had the courage to come to us and tell us about their personal plight. And I think we owe them the respect that we've listened to them and that we will attempt to assist them. Now, there's nothing in this that we cannot do. It's about advocating. It's about standing up for people who are vulnerable. And it's about, within our current resources, locating other opportunities like making new lots available. So, councillors, I urge you to support this. This is the very least we can do for these people. And I hope that we can do it with, I'm going to use the word alacrity. I'm going to say, let's do it quickly. Let's do it quickly with the expertise we know we have on our team. So I urge you to support this.
Councillor Grimmer.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, I can just imagine the level of the stress that these community members are going through. And I have great empathy for them. They didn't ask for this to happen to them, and we're getting one of the biggest businesses in the country coming in who are going to make a lot of money out of a caravan park. And I think the very least they can do is look after all the residents that are in the situation. And I don't see why they can't do this. Now, I must admit I've seconded this motion, but I'm not even sure that I'm going to vote at all to support the lease at the moment. I really like the idea of actually an assigned lease for 6 months that was brought up by Sandy Smith. I really think that we should take our time before we actually put people into this situation. I certainly didn't come onto council to make people homeless in a town where there is no accommodation available whatsoever, and particularly people at the towards the end of their lives who are going through that much stress. And I really do hope that we can show some compassion. Look, I understand that our decisions just do we surrender one lease and put another one in place, but I absolutely agree with Councillor McLaren that we can do better and we have to do better. These are the people that we're elected. These are the vulnerable people that we're elected to look after, and we have to do better than we are doing at the moment. And I know that there's been compassion and words, and we've put a lot of red words into the motion, but that's not good enough for me. I want these people looked after at the lease itself, and maybe that's something that we could consider as well. But anyway, I'm certainly very supportive of this approach, but again, it's advocating. We need RAC to come on board. You're a big business with a lot of money. Come on board and look after these people, and then, by all means, make a good deal of money out of it.
Probably stand up, but generally, it is a day-to-day. I do feel for them, I do agree with Lynn and Steve Grimmer with the amendment, but we need to put a date in there. We can't just leave it open and expect the RAC to buy this place, paying interest, paying everything, and not being able to develop it. Thank you.
Councillor Leonetti, are you proposing a further amendment?
Well, yes, Chair.
Do you want to put something to us? Do this amendment first. So we'll deal with this, and you foreshadow that if this falls over, that you'll foreshadow an amendment with a date.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. We'll come back to you if this doesn't get up. Any other speaker for? Deputy Mayor Terry?
Just a question first, Mr Mayor. The issue, Sandy raised it, reassigned lease. I'd just like to get some information from the administration as to what issues there are and whether that is feasible and has been considered.
So you're looking for a point of clarification? Matthew Gilfellin, the Executive Director for Corporate Services.
Thank you, through the Chair. So in terms of the difference between an assignment and a new lease in terms of the vacant possession, there's no difference. So under the Long-Term Tenancies Act, I think it's section 41, there's several reasons why you can have vacant possession, and one of those is through the sale. So the sale, we're not dealing with the sale. The sale is an agreement between RAC and Redwood. So that's going to happen regardless of whether it's an assignment or whether it's a new lease. So the reason that a new lease was proposed is essentially because the lease currently is from 1961. There's two leaseholders. One of them has passed away over 60 years ago. The lease talks about rent being £433, and you need your modesty things on the beach for people to go move into the water in. From the point of view of why a new lease was desired from the city, it's been kind of standing since about 2010, 2011 that we wanted a new lease, because obviously trying to deal with quite an old lease with old terms is quite difficult. DPLH wants a new lease because obviously, and they have the final approval of the lease, so they want modern conditions in the lease. They also want to deal with the coastal hazard provisions through that lease, and RAC want a new lease. Obviously, because they want modern provisions in the lease as well. But in terms of whether an assignment or a new lease would affect the vacant possession, it wouldn't have any difference.
That satisfy your query? You've spoken. It's only a point of clarification
Point of clarification of what was just said. May I ask a point of clarification, which was basically about the extended time frame. So I think,
start again.
Yeah. The may I ask a point of clarification?
Yes, you
may. It was suggested by one of the people here that a reassigned lease would extend the time frame that the residents had to relocate by 6 months. Can you address how that, if there's any mechanism that we have that might extend the time frame in the way that was requested?
I think the point that was being made was that you could go with the current lease and then reassign the lease in 6 months' time. I think that's what the suggestion was.
So I believe the conditions precedent of the sale is that there's vacant possession. So again, they're not going to take over, whether it be an assignment or a new lease, they're not going to take over up until there's vacant possession. So essentially the new owners will give the 180 days notice. It's at the end of the notice period that the RAC will take over. So again, whether they're taking over based on it being an assignment of a lease or whether they're taking over based on it being a new lease, they will be taking over with vacant possession.
So it's a condition of sale, from what we understand, although we haven't seen the terms and conditions. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Sutton.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm speaking for the motion. Look, to begin with this, it's all about responsibility, I think, Mayor. And before we go into the responsibility, I'm just going to share a story. We've heard how people sort of can imagine what it'd be like to be homeless. Well, I went fairly close when we sold our pomegranate farm in November. Slightly different, we were cashed up. It was in that stupid period, Mayor, where real estate was offers above. And I did mention at the council during that period where people would go to a home open, young couples, got their 50, 60 grand saved. Oh, offers above, and they go up by 20, 30 grand. I was in a similar situation where I couldn't find anywhere. Within 3 weeks of settling, I had nowhere to live because I was going to live in a container, in a sleeping bag. So I've got a feel for what it's like to be potentially homeless, even though they're much, much worse off than I was because at least I had money. Now, responsibility. I think it's a responsibility of three groups. First is Redwood. We know during the COVID, caravanning went bang. But a lot of these tenants have been in that caravan park for 30 years. Ted Thompson, 32 years. Old North Albany footballer, you know him. Mayor, a champion. Now, in the ups and downs of the caravan world, if the fuel price rises, spikes, well, the caravan parks, housing caravans, quieten down. These tenants, long-term tenants, were the backbone of that caravan park in these good and bad times. Their money was there every week or every month to support the ongoing running of the caravan park. So I think there's a bit of responsibility at Redwood to be more responsible and up their ante a little bit because they've had some good servants for many, many years. The next responsibility is the RAC. They're going to make a lot of money out of this. They're going to spend a lot of money, as Councillor Leonetti said. They're going to spend some money. But they're in a position, they're going to spend millions, a couple of 100,000 or whatever it might be, whatever the figure is, at the beginning of the project, it's not a hell of a lot. And I would expect them to show the responsibility as a good corporate citizen, Mayor, and consider these most vulnerable people in our community. In the last stage of their life, if you like. Like most of us, they've lived longer than they're going to live. We've all got to face the fact. I would hate it, as I said at the committee meeting, if my parents were in the same position, or if I was put in the same position. And any one of us here could be in that same position with one bad decision, one bad act. Then it comes back to the council responsibility. So it's three lots. We've got a responsibility, A, to the greater community, but we've got, to me, more of a responsibility to our most vulnerable. And we look at dot point 23, I think it was, where it says we actually looked at the submissions and weighed it up. The comments and impacts raised in the submissions received, Mayor, have been carefully considered and weighed alongside the potential investment long-term benefits to the community of securing the future of the site through this process, a proposed lease. I think that says it all. If we don't do absolutely what we can here we go, we're giving way to corporate and abandoning our most vulnerable citizens. I can't be part of that.
Speaker for or against? Thank you. Speaker for or against? Councillor Sutton? You've already spoken, so...
Yeah, Mayor, I would like to propose a procedural motion.
You can do that. What's your motion?
To lay this item on the table for 1 month.
So for the May OCM?
Sorry, yes.
Right, so can we... so this is the intent that this item be deferred and represented for consideration by Council at the ordinary Council meeting to be held on Tuesday 27th of May 2025?
Correct, sir.
All right, well, this is not up for debate, councillors, but you have a minute to explain your reasoning.
Now, Mayor, we've heard tonight there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of he said, she said, and we understand with everything there's always 3 stories, his, hers and the truth. So what I think, there's not hate speech, but there's bad comments going about RAC. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of policy holders, Mayor, with RAC.
Sorry, I made an error there. We need a seconder for that procedural motion. Do we have a seconder?
Sorry?
Thank you, Councillor Charles.
Oh, second. Oh, sorry, so I can keep going. And look, we've heard tonight, Mayor, there's conflicting information. A great one is 170,000 to move a house. When we did the Pomegranate Shack, we had a 2-bedroom unit moved from Centennial to Napier, 40Ks, $13,000. So this is why I think it's very, very important we have another month to consider everyone's option and give RAC and give Redwood the opportunity to come forward and be very, very good corporate citizens and give these guys a bit of a go. Thank you.
Okay. There is no further debate on the procedural motion. I'll just ask for a vote. All those in favour? Against?
Carried 9-0.
All right, that concludes debate for the night on that issue until May. So you're welcome to go home, ladies and gents, unless you really want to sit through some pretty dry financials. The financials are great, but they're dry. Okay, let's keep moving. CCS 703, the monthly financial report for February. The committee recommendation is that the monthly financial report for the period ending 28th of February 2025 be received. Councillor Sutton, Councillor McKinley. Councillor Sutton.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor McKinley.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone against? Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
Didn't have to ask for against. CCS 704, that the list of accounts authorised for payment under delegated authority of the Chief Executive Officer for the period ending 15th of March 2025 totalling $9,027,108.03 be received. A mover? Councillor McLaren. Councillor Trail. Councillor McLaren. Councillor Trail. Anyone against? No? Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
CCS 705, Delegated Authority reports. The committee recommendation is that the Delegated Authority reports 16th of February 2025 to 15th of March 2025 be received. Someone to move. Councillor Bijou. Councillor McKinley. Councillor Bijou. Councillor McKinley. No, anyone against? All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
CCS 706, Regional Events and Film Sponsorship. The recommendation is that the Council approve the Regional Events and Film Sponsorship Assessment Panel recommendations as outlined in paragraph 36, table 1 of this report. Someone to move that? Councillor Trail, Deputy Mayor Terry. Councillor Trail.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always good to be on panels like this to give away money to deserving causes, and we've had some excellent applications. We were a little bit maybe surprised, not disappointed, but surprised that there was only 3 applications for this round of the regional events and film sponsorship. No film projects on offer as well. But having said that, we, as the panel, I think, thought that the range of events was really good, and will actually create interest from outside the area to bring people to Albany. That's really what one of the major criterion is to bring people into the region, to encourage them to come to Albany to spend a bit of money to enjoy what we have to offer. So the range of events, the Diwali Festival, a major multicultural event, which has been going the last few years. They need a bit more help to actually up the scale of it. The film, the spooky walk through Lake Seppings area was something that's outside my knowledge, but is apparently very popular and ran really successfully last year. We were relieved to hear that there was not going to be any environmental damage and they weren't going to set fire to Lake Seppings. So that's also another popular one. And the one that is a new one, the junior sevens rugby competition, which is a major event to bring to Albany. That's going to be great and bring a lot of people to Albany all around that springtime when we encourage visitors to come. So in the upshot of the submissions, we were pleased to be able to recommend these 3. And to give them almost what they asked for. The panel actually decided that we'd keep a little money aside because we do have a big year ahead of us next year, and we're anticipating more applications next year. But I would hope that the applicants would be happy with our outcome. So from our point of view, my point of view, a really successful round, and let's hope we all can support this and also support these events when they do come to Albany. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. To back up what Councillor Trail said, but I just wanted to speak just briefly on the Diwali Meala Festival. I went to the Diwali Meala Festival in Perth last year. I was staggered by how many people attended that event. There would have been over 30,000 people each night. The Indian diaspora in Perth is just massive. So if the Rainbow Coast Neighbourhood Centre, or the organisation who have run the Diwali Albany event for the last 2 years, can draw on that number of people to come here and celebrate what we have to offer here in Albany, is a great thing to support. The committee decided or recommended not to go for the whole 20,000 because it's a bit of a stepping stone for the Rainbow Coast Neighbourhood Centre to go from what they did last year to what they were hoping to be able to do this year. So it's small steps, and we did impress upon them the need to market to the Indian diaspora in Perth to make sure we get the people to come down for the event this year, because the whole regional event scheme is predicated on attracting people to the region. So we did put them on notice in relation to that. So we'll see how that goes and whether we support it again for next year. I don't think I need to add anything else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against? No? Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
CCS 707, the recommendation is that the tenders awarded report January to March 2025 be received. Someone to move, please. Councillor Sutton, Councillor Leonetti, Councillor Sutton.
Thank you,
Councillor Leonetti. Anyone speaking against? No. Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
CCS 708, corporate scorecard. The recommendation is that the corporate scorecard for Q3 2024-25 CBP actions and the corporate scorecard Q3 2024-25 CEO KPIs for the January to March 2025 quarter be noted. Somebody to move that. Councillor McLaren, Councillor McKinley. Councillor McLaren. Councillor McKinley. Anyone speaking against? No. Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
We've done 709. Well, we haven't done it, but we've delayed it. We've done 437, but we haven't done 436. So DIS 436, initiation to adopt amendment to amendment number 2 to the City of Albany Local Planning Scheme number 2 for advertising version 2. Now that is a mighty long recommendation on page 31 of your agenda. I'm going to take that as read, but please note that there is an addendum to 436 at the top of the recommendation. Which was a point made by Councillor Bijou at committee around the removal of the last bullet point as no structure plan currently applies to the area. Does that satisfy the comment you made, Councillor Bijou? Okay, and you'll see at the end of the notes on page 32 that that has been struck. So I'm taking that as read. Can I have a mover? Councillor Bijou. A seconder? Councillor McLaren. Councillor Bijou.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just briefly, as I mentioned, there's been a long history with the subject land, and I know that the proponents are very keen to see a change from the priority agriculture because it's very difficult for ongoing agriculture. There's not a lot of important horticulture occurs on that land, and it is somewhat constrained because it's between two areas of existing rural residential and rural small holdings. So it's an area of land that does lend itself to rural living, and this amendment, once initiated, will allow for some connectivity of the wetlands, the bushland areas between the roads, the emergency egress. So it makes a lot of sense and has been a long time coming. So I would encourage everyone to support the officer recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Anyone speaking against? No, we'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
We've done 437. We'll move on to 438. DIS planning and building reports. The recommendation is that the planning and building reports for March 2025 be received. Someone to move. Councillor Sutton, Councillor Leonetti. Councillor Sutton, Councillor Leonetti. Anyone speaking against? No. Put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Carried 9-0.
That moves us to the back of the agenda. There is no new business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of council. There's no motions of which previous notice has been given. No reports of city officers, so I will declare the meeting